day 5 right now, and the state is about to wrap up this case. It really stems from Youngin Ace and Julio Foolio, a local Florida rap rivalry.
A routine Tampa courtroom hearing exploded when Foolio's brother lunged at the woman convicted of killing him. That wasn't random rage. It was the climax of years of gang pressure, payback, and a murder that shook Florida rap. In this video, I'll uncover the setup in Tampa, the murder, the courtroom meltdown, and how Foolio's beefs led to this moment. Trip to Tampa, the deadly setup. In the early summer of 2024, Julio Foolio's final trip began like many of his others, documented on social media and filled with celebration. The Jacksonville rapper, whose real name was Charles Jones II, had just turned 26. On June 21, 2024, he announced plans to celebrate his birthday weekend in Tampa, Florida, a few hours south of his hometown. Posts on Instagram and Snapchat showed him by the pool, smiling with friends, and promoting his appearance at Truth Lounge, a nightclub in North Tampa known for hosting local artists.
In the early morning hours of Sunday, June 23rd, Jacksonville rapper Charles Jones arrived at Teaser's Gentlemen's Club in Tampa for a paid performance.
He's the gentleman wearing the red beanie hat.
That's Tampa Police Homicide Detective Juan Ramos identifying the rapper, known as Julio Foolio, in new surveillance video from the club's parking lot.
At the same time, a separate group was making the same journey from Jacksonville. According to court filings and testimony presented by the Hillsborough County State Attorney's Office, the group included Isaiah Chance Jr., Alicia Andrews, Sean Gathright, Rashad Murphy, and Davian Murphy. Investigators would later identify Chance as Andrews' boyfriend and the alleged ringleader of the operation. All 5 were later charged in connection with Foolio's murder. Phone records and cell tower data became a key focus of the state's case. Prosecutors said Andrews' cell phone activity on June 22 and 23 matched the travel pattern of the suspect's vehicles. Investigators testified that the phone left Jacksonville and arrived in Tampa within the same time frame as the other defendants, making no other significant stops along the route. Another crucial piece of evidence was an Airbnb rental booked under Andrews' name. Prosecutors said the property, located near Busch Gardens in North Tampa, served as the group's base of operations that weekend. The Airbnb's location placed it less than 10 minutes from the Holiday Inn Express, where Foolio was ultimately killed. Security footage and digital timestamps suggested that members of the group were at the property shortly before and after the shooting. The prosecution argued that this coordination was not coincidental. In opening statements, Assistant State Attorney Scott Harmon described it as a planned and premeditated setup, the culmination of a long-standing feud that had claimed multiple lives in Jacksonville's rap community. According to investigators, Chance and the Murphy brothers were affiliated with a rival street group that had clashed with Foolio for years. However, the defense presented a different explanation. Attorney Life Malcolm maintained that Andrews had no role in any plot to harm the rapper. The Airbnb, he said, was simply booked for her boyfriend and his friends, and she had no knowledge of their intentions. No messages or calls directly linking Andrews to the murder planning were recovered. This conflicting evidence between digital data and intent became central to the trial. It raised the key question prosecutors needed the jury to answer. Was Alicia Andrews an active participant in the setup or a bystander whose name happened to appear on the wrong reservation? The night of the shooting. In the early hours of June 23, 2024, Tampa police received multiple 911 calls reporting gunfire outside the Holiday Inn Express near the University of South Florida. By the time first responders arrived, they found a black Dodge Charger riddled with bullets in the hotel parking lot. Inside was Charles Julio Foolio Jones II, 26, slumped in the driver's seat. He had been shot several times in the chest and back. Paramedics attempted resuscitation, but he was pronounced dead at the scene. According to a statement from the Tampa Police Department, surveillance footage from the hotel and nearby businesses showed Foolio arriving at the Holiday Inn shortly after 4:30 a.m. He was accompanied by 3 other individuals, identified later as close friends and associates. The group had reportedly checked out of an Airbnb earlier that night after complaints from neighbors about noise, prompting Foolio to relocate to the hotel. Minutes after the group parked, 2 vehicles were seen entering the same lot, a dark-colored sedan and a gray SUV, later believed to be linked to the suspects from Jacksonville. The footage, later presented in court, showed both vehicles slowing as they approached Foolio's car. 3 armed individuals exited, dressed in black clothing and ski masks. Witnesses nearby reported hearing short bursts of rapid gunfire, described by investigators as consistent with 3 and 9mm caliber rounds, suggesting the use of at least 1 rifle and 1 handgun. Detectives later recovered more than 30 shell casings from the scene. The attack lasted less than a minute. The shooters fired multiple rounds into the vehicle before fleeing in the same direction they arrived. Security cameras captured the cars leaving the lot, though their license plates were obscured. Foolio's 3 passengers survived the shooting with non-life-threatening injuries. In subsequent interviews, they told police they had no warning before the gunfire erupted. None were able to identify the attackers due to the masks and darkness. Investigators pieced together the timeline using cell phone records, vehicle data, and surveillance footage from surrounding businesses. The evidence suggested that the assailants had tracked Foolio's movements throughout the night, from the Truth Lounge nightclub, where he had performed earlier, to the hotel parking lot where he was ambushed. Detectives described the operation as precise and premeditated, indicating the attackers knew exactly where Foolio would be. Tampa Police Chief Lee Burkall stated in a press conference that the killing was not random and bore the hallmarks of a targeted hit. By dawn, Foolio's death was confirmed across news outlets and social media. What began as a birthday celebration had ended in the kind of violence that had long shadowed his career. An ambush that investigators believed had been set in motion days earlier, miles away from the parking lot where it ended. Rise of Julio Foolio. Charles Andrew Jones II, known professionally as Julio Foolio, was born on June 21, 1998, in Jacksonville, Florida. Raised primarily in the Moncrief area, one of the city's most violence-stricken neighborhoods, Foolio's early life was marked by instability and tragedy. At age 13, his father was killed in a shooting, an event that would shape much of his worldview and later appear in his lyrics. 6 years later, in 2017, his cousin and several close friends were also gunned down, further deepening the trauma that would fuel his music.
Yo, my dog, one of my dogs, well, he ain't my dog no more, but one of my dogs' mama had got shot in front of us in the hood, in Hilltop.
Foolio's introduction to rap began in his teenage years, initially as a form of self-expression and local recognition within Jacksonville's underground scene. He attended Westside High School but eventually dropped out due to safety concerns following multiple violent incidents near the campus. His earliest songs circulated on SoundCloud and YouTube, gaining traction for their raw emotion and unfiltered depictions of street life. By 2018, Foolio had become one of the most recognizable voices in Jacksonville's drill movement, a subgenre of rap characterized by its aggressive tone and references to real-world gang conflicts. His breakout songs, Crooks, Slide, When I See You, and Voodoo, amassed millions of views on YouTube. The lyrics often blended mourning and provocation, naming deceased rivals and friends, and solidifying Foolio as both a talented artist and a polarizing figure in Florida's rap scene. Foolio's music frequently referenced the city's long-running rivalry between groups associated with the ATK, Ace's Top Killers faction, and KTA 6 Block, with which he was allegedly affiliated. These conflicts extended beyond music, spilling into social media and real-life violence. The viral 2021 track, Who I Smoke by ATK member Youngin Ace's group escalated tensions by mocking KTA members who had been killed, prompting Foolio's infamous response, When I See You, remix, which mirrored the tone and directly named the deceased. Despite the controversy, Foolio's following continued to grow. He maintained over 1 million monthly listeners on Spotify and nearly the same number of followers on Instagram, where he often addressed rumors, taunts, and threats directly. Interviews revealed a complex personality, part provocateur, part survivor, aware of the risks but unwilling to retreat from authenticity. In the months leading up to his death, Foolio spoke about feeling targeted and frequently changed locations to avoid danger. He was open about past attempts on his life, including a 2020 shooting in Jacksonville where he was grazed by bullets. "I've been dodging death my whole life," he once said in an interview. Foolio's rise captured the intersection of music, violence, and internet culture, a reflection of how fame, for some artists, offered exposure but never true escape. The long smoldering feud. For more than a decade, Jacksonville, Florida, has been a hotspot for one of the most publicized gang rivalries in modern hip-hop. The conflict primarily centers around 3 groups: 6 Block, ATK, Ace's Top Killers, and 1200. What began as neighborhood disputes and retaliatory violence eventually evolved into a cultural war broadcast online, with music videos, lyrics, and social media posts serving as extensions of the street conflict.
A feud between 2 local gangs linked to a 7-year-old's tragic death in Jacksonville. That's according to new information from the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. Breon Allen Jr. was shot and killed in the Commonwealth neighborhood on Jacksonville's west side back in January.
And now police say the crime is related to last year's murder of Charles Jones, a Jacksonville rapper known as Julio Foolio.
Julio Foolio, real name Charles Jones, became one of the most recognized figures associated with 6 Block, a group linked to the north side of Jacksonville. His music openly referenced slain friends and mocked rival crews, making him both a target and a voice for his community. His rival, Youngin Ace, emerged as a leading member of ATK, and their lyrical back and forth became one of the most talked about feuds in Florida rap. The 2021 viral hit Who I Smoke by ATK-affiliated rappers transformed the local rivalry into a national spectacle. The song infamously listed the names of deceased 6 Block members, turning tragedy into entertainment. In response, Foolio released When I See You, a reworking of Fantasia's R&B ballad, where he named and taunted several of Ace's fallen associates. These releases weren't just music, they were digital memorials and provocations rolled into one, and they reignited a cycle of retaliation that spilled far beyond the recording booth. Law enforcement reports and court filings later tied dozens of shootings, drive-bys, and targeted killings to members and affiliates of both sides. Between 2017 and 2023, Jacksonville police documented a series of violent incidents allegedly connected to lyrics and online taunts exchanged between the two groups. Foolio himself survived multiple assassination attempts, including a 2021 shooting in Texas and another outside his Jacksonville home. Each attempt further solidified his image as both a survivor and a marked man. Investigators described the feud as a hybrid of street warfare and online performance, where diss tracks serve both as mourning rituals and declarations of vengeance. Despite occasional arrests and public condemnations, the cycle of provocation continued. By 2024, tensions between factions had escalated once again, setting the stage for the Tampa ambush that would end Foolio's life and turn a long-running Jacksonville conflict into a national headline. The investigation unfolds. In the aftermath of the June 23, 2024 shooting, Tampa homicide detectives launched an intensive investigation to piece together what happened and who was behind it. Their work began with surveillance footage from the Holiday Inn Express parking lot, which showed Foolio's Dodge Charger pulling in shortly before 4 a.m., followed by 2 other vehicles. Investigators noted that both cars, a gray Nissan Altima and a black SUV, matched witness accounts and were later linked to individuals who traveled from Jacksonville to Tampa that weekend.
You've never been arrested before? The situation here as it stands, okay, is we want to show you the stuff we want to show you, and we want to give you the opportunity.
License plate readers along Interstate 75 confirmed the same 2 vehicles made the roughly 200-mile trip from Jacksonville on June 22nd, returning north hours after the shooting. Detectives used automated plate recognition data, toll records, and GPS tracking to trace the exact routes taken. The evidence revealed synchronized travel patterns consistent with coordination rather than coincidence. Detectives then turned to phone and digital data. Cell tower pings showed consistent contact between the primary suspects, Isaiah Chance Jr., Alicia Andrews, Sean Gathright, Rashad Murphy, and Davian Murphy. Andrews' phone data placed her in Tampa, aligned with the movements of the convoy. Her name also appeared on the Airbnb reservation where the group stayed, a unit located about 10 minutes from the shooting scene. Prosecutors later described the timeline as a calculated ambush carried out under the guise of a birthday trip. According to court filings, text messages recovered from one suspect's phone referenced business in Tampa days before the attack, though no explicit mention of Foolio appeared in the recovered conversations. Authorities relied heavily on circumstantial evidence, arguing that the combination of travel coordination, digital contact, and Andrews' Airbnb booking tied her to the conspiracy. Ballistics reports from the scene identified more than a dozen shell casings from 2 rifles and a handgun, all consistent with a premeditated assault. Investigators also recovered fragments of ammunition linked to firearms later found in a Jacksonville residence connected to one of the suspects. The defense countered that Andrews did not know the group's intentions, emphasizing that she neither handled weapons nor participated in the shooting. Her attorneys argued that being the Airbnb renter did not equate to guilt, calling the state's evidence a web of assumptions without a single direct message of intent. Still, prosecutors maintained that all 5 individuals acted together and that the Tampa trip was no coincidence but the culmination of a years-long feud that turned deadly, arrests, and fallout. By early July 2024, the Tampa Police Department and U.S. Marshals had enough evidence to move in. Arrest warrants were issued for all 5 suspects tied to the shooting of Charles Julio Foolio Jones II, Isaiah Chance Jr., Alicia Andrews, Sean Gathright, Rashad Murphy, and Davian Murphy. Each was charged with first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder, charges that in Florida carry the possibility of life imprisonment or the death penalty.
A little more than a month ago, a group of individuals with the goal of premeditated murder, traveled from Jacksonville to Tampa to commit a heinous crime in our city. I said at that time that we would make arrests and get justice in this case for all the victims, including the mother of Charles Jones.
Alicia Andrews was the first to be taken into custody. She was arrested quietly at her Jacksonville apartment after detectives traced her Airbnb account and confirmed her vehicle's movement through toll and license plate records. According to the arrest affidavit, Andrews knowingly participated in the logistics of the trip to Tampa, even though she was not seen at the shooting site itself. Her arrest became the cornerstone of the prosecution's narrative, that every participant played a role, whether behind the trigger or behind the wheel. Days later, authorities apprehended Isaiah Chance and Sean Gathright in coordinated raids across Jacksonville's west side. Both men were found with phones containing encrypted messages and deleted location data, which forensic teams later attempted to recover. Rashad Murphy's capture was far more dramatic. When police tracked him to a relative's home, he barricaded himself inside, prompting a brief SWAT standoff. After several hours, Murphy surrendered without injury. His younger brother, Davian, fled the state but was later located in Georgia and extradited back to Florida by late August. Sheriff T.K. Waters addressed the arrest in a televised press briefing. "There's no place you'll hide if you commit crime in Florida. We will find you and we will hold you accountable." State Attorney Susan Lopez echoed his sentiment, emphasizing the collective responsibility of everyone involved. They all had one purpose: to kill, and even those who didn't pull the trigger will be held accountable. For Jacksonville's rap community, the arrest marked both closure and renewed anxiety. Some saw it as justice finally catching up with years of unchecked violence. Others feared it would trigger fresh cycles of revenge. Fans mourned Foolio as yet another casualty of a feud that blurred the line between music and murder. Behind bars, the 5 defendants awaited trial, their names now tied to one of the most publicized gang-related killings Florida had seen in years. But for investigators and families alike, one question remained. Had the arrests ended the war or merely paused it? Legacy of a lost voice. The death of Charles Julio Foolio, Jones II, marked more than the end of a young artist's life. It reignited a national conversation about the intersection between rap, violence, and social media in Florida's hip-hop culture. For many, Foolio represented both the raw potential and the destructive patterns that defined Jacksonville's rap scene. A scene where lyrics often doubled as threats and retaliation played out as much online as it did in the streets.
Shared very detailed evidence in the case, showing a horrifying picture of the rapper's car shot 31 times as he rolled into a hotel parking lot near USF. Prosecutors say that Julio Foolio was the target of a carefully calculated plan, but tonight defense attorneys shedding light on a different side of the case.
In the weeks after his killing, vigils were held across Jacksonville and Tampa. Fans played his music through open car windows, painted murals bearing his likeness, and filled social media with clips of his live performances. Hashtags liked and trended for days. Within a month, his Spotify streams surged past 1.5 million monthly listeners, a reflection of how death in hip-hop often amplifies the very voices it silences. Community leaders and media outlets began asking difficult questions. How much responsibility do artists carry when their lyrics incite real-world violence? And how much of that violence is a reflection of deeper systemic issues, poverty, policing, and a generation raised on digital warfare? Local activists argued that Foolio's story wasn't unique, but symptomatic of a cycle that had claimed dozens of young rappers across Florida in the last decade. His mother, Katrina Jones, emerged as a central figure in the aftermath. In interviews, she described the grief of watching her son's image spread online, not for his art, but for the violence surrounding it. She continues to attend hearings, ensuring her son's name remains present in every proceeding. "He wasn't perfect," she told reporters, "but he didn't deserve to die like that." 4 co-defendants, Isaiah Chance Jr., Sean Gathright, Rashad Murphy, and Davian Murphy, await trial in 2025, with prosecutors signaling that capital punishment remains on the table for some. Alicia Andrews' case, the first to reach court, is now viewed as a test of how the justice system will interpret indirect involvement in gang-related killings. Even in death, Foolio's legacy remains divided, celebrated by fans who saw him as a voice of truth, and criticized by others who viewed his lyrics as accelerants in a long-burning war. Yet his influence persists, a cautionary emblem of how fame and conflict became inseparable in one of America's most dangerous rap battlegrounds. In the end, Foolio's story isn't just about music or murder. It's about how pride, loss, and revenge keep repeating in the same streets. How many more voices will we lose before the cycle finally breaks? Share your thoughts below.